Hi, and welcome to Knife Chats. Today we're going to be talking about today's episode, the Korean-made gravity knife. Well, here's something you don't see every day. A copy of the German LL80 gravity knife used by the German Army, and which in turn was a copy of the old Fallschirmjäger Messer or parachutist knife of World War II. And what is it? It's a gravity knife, so you push this lever and blade drops out, lift up, push the lever, blade goes back in. So the whole blade moves through gravity only. This is a Korean version. I'm sure it was made for the civilian market. I'm guessing sometime in the 80s or 90s, considering all of that wonderful camouflage on those metal handles. The LL80 I think has a nylon handle, not a metal handle. These are, I think they're metal. They might be plastic. Yeah, they're probably plastic. In any case, the body is metal. What you see here on the top is the top is a marlin spike used for untying knots in like parachute lines and such. And the other end, which we already saw, is the blade. So overall length with both things out is right at probably 12 inches. You know, if you had everything out, of course you wouldn't have it that way. Let's get this blade in first. The spike is right at 3.5 or 3.25 inches. The handle is, let's see here if I can do this. I can get it right with this spike. Looks like to be about 5.25 or 5 3/8 inches. So overall length with that is, let's see if we can do this better. Flip this over. Looks like to be about 8 3/4 inches with the spike end. Let's get the spike in, or spike put where it belongs. Let's set it this way and do it this way again. It worked out pretty well. Blade length, if we do it with just a blade, comes in at right at 8.5 inches. So a lot of blade for a very little blade for a very big handle, I guess you could say. It's only a 3-inch blade and a 5-inch handle, so. But you can do this with it, so it's kind of fun. If you notice, there's that little notch in there, right up here. That's the catch that holds the blade in when you let it drop so it doesn't fall back out. There's another catch on the inside that prevents the blade from going back in. So I think you can poke harder things than what I was just doing with it without it collapsing. But if you hold this down, then the blade easily goes back in. That's the catch. If you do it this way, the blade is not going to drop. So, and same here, you actually have to apply pressure for the blade to drop. And you can do that all day long, so it's kind of fun. But practicality, I think I'd rather have just a standard automatic or a flipper knife or any kind of a switchblade or anything would probably work better than this as far as I'm concerned. I get that you have this and gravity's doing the work and there's very little things that can go wrong, but it's still a spring load here, and if that spring breaks then you've still got the same problems. So you know, still kind of cool, and it's not something you see every day, so I thought I'd share, and hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, made in Korea, copy of the LL80. I have a slideshow with some of the specs and everything afterwards, so stay tuned for that. Oops, one more thing before the slideshow. Before I go to the slideshow, one of the things that's really interesting is this blade wobbles all over the place. Now I don't know if that's simply because it's the Korean version or if the one on the LL80 does that or not. The other thing that's kind of important is you see this little notch here. That also lets you know this is the dull side of the blade, and this is the business side of the blade. So if you're going to mess with the blade, mess with it on this side so you don't cut yourself. But yeah, a lot of wobble on the blade, and you can hear it rattle all over the place. Another reason I would not really want to take this knife into combat, especially if I'm going to try and do something quiet. That's probably the noisiest piece of equipment I'd have. Almost as noisy as the air conditioner. Okay, now on with the slideshow. We'll take a look at the specifications here. I'm not going to read it all to you. If you want to take a closer look, just pause the video. What I did want to mention, if you notice a lot of things just say metal. I don't know what kind of metal is used, just like I don't know what kind of stainless steel was used in the blade. And this is what the LL80 looks like compared to this Korean version. And here's the only spot where I noticed that it says Korea, which is on the Marlin spike at the very back. Now, here we have the knife compared to the 108mm GAC, or German Army knife, that was issued back in the 1980s, I believe. And you can see the comparative sizes. The GAC obviously is much more pocket friendly. And here we see the differences in utensils between the two, showing that once again the GAC is probably much more useful, especially when you consider the saw here. And here's the difference in the spike. Obviously this is a reamer, so it's not something you're really going to want to be trying to dig knots out with, because it will cut the line. And this you could actually use for digging out knots and stuff. Blade sizes, if you notice, the one on the GAC, while it's a little thinner, is slightly longer than the one on the gravity knife. Here's a better view so you can see the two differences. And here we have it compared to the 111mm modern GAC, or German Army knife. And you see once again the comparisons of tools. And obviously this is a one-hand opener. Obviously you're not going to be able to just drop it open with the weight of gravity, but you've got a much more positive liner lock in here, not to mention so many more tools, including a Phillips driver, a flathead driver, and a saw blade, as opposed to just the Marlin spike. So you can see which one is probably more useful. And here we see the blade comparisons, and once again it's obvious that the blade on the GAC is probably more useful. In this case it's a little thicker. It's 3/4 or 2/3 serrated, and still has a small portion that has a fine edge. And like I said, it's one-hand opening, and it has a very positive lock. And here we see the differences in lengths. The cutting edge on the GAC is slightly longer, and so probably a better blade all around. Now, obviously, I'm not exactly sure if this has the same exact specs as the LL80, but it is a copy of it, so it's probably darn close. And so there you have it. That's my look at a Korean-made copy of the LL80 gravity knife issued by the German Army. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, thanks for dropping by, and remember, you're only as sharp as your knife.